Oh, the chore that everybody loves, laundry. Actually, doing laundry isn't quite so bad. It's actually quite easy compared to how it was in the beginning. Originally, in order to do laundry, you had to cart water in buckets from a well, a cistern, a river, or a creek, about 400 pounds worth, into a large kettle set on a fire. You would add your lye and your soda ash, and you would need to scrub with your hands in that boiling water, or beat with a paddle, or flail it against a rock, and then put it into a clear water, a rinsing water, and then hang it or lay it out to dry. You would often lay your laundry out on a bush or on a rock, or if you had a line, then you would hang it on a tree or a line. Eventually, we had a wash house. So you had a house separate from your house, just like having a cookhouse separate from the house, because there was fire in there. On the left, you see what's called a copper. And so it's a copper tub with a fire underneath it. It has an actual fireplace that controlled the fire. Most people did their laundry out of doors simply because of the heat of the fire and the boiling water they were working with. In that case, you might have two wash tubs, one for your soapy water and one for your clear water that you rinsed everything in. Once you finished washing, you had to wring the water out by hand. When you think about how many layers of clothing we wore, you had an undergarment layer that protected your good clothing from body oils. And then if you were of the working class, you would have a layer that you wore outside, such as an apron or a work smock, that protected your clothing from surface dirt. So the things that got washed most frequently were your undergarments and your protective garments, because your actual clothing couldn't be washed very frequently, particularly if it was delicate silks or embroidered or those types of things. And then if you were working class, you didn't have a lot of clothing. So it was important to keep it clean, because remember, in a class society, cleanliness is next to godliness. So the cleaner your clothes were, the higher of stature you were, and the better person you were considered to be. Remember, I'm talking about the past, and we need to think about how did we think about those things. One of the great things that came up as far as wives were concerned, because wives were the people doing laundry, was when Lord Montagu is credited with inventing the removable collar. Think about it. If your husband went to work 5, 6 days a week, he had to have 6 shirts. One, that's expensive. Two, that's a lot of laundry. But if he had one or maybe 2 shirts and 10 removable collars, then you can wash a little collar every day. You can wash a collar once a day and hang it up, and he wears a different collar. And with the clothing that they were wearing, a shirt, a vest, a tie, a coat, all you really saw of the shirt was the collar. It got to the point that collars were made out of cardboard and they were disposable. When your collar got too dirty, you just threw your collar away. Now, the person that they loved the most was Mr. Maytag. In 1907, Mr. Maytag developed the first, what we call wringer washer. The one there on the left is an example. So it has a handle that spins and churns the fabric, the clothing in the washing machine, but then it also has a mangle attached. A mangle is what you see in the right-hand photo. A mangle is 2 rollers that you put the fabric in between, and it wrings all the water out for you. This is great because it reduces drying time and it reduces the stress on your hands from trying to wring the water out of everything. Of course, today it is much easier to do laundry. When you're considering buying a washing machine, you need to think about some facts. Do you want a top loading washer or a front loading washer? Now, the major difference between those is that a front loading washer uses less water and it uses less soap. But in using less water, you need to think about what you are cleaning. So if you spend every day sitting in a chair at a desk and maybe you sweat, but you're not actually getting dirt on your clothes, a front loading washer might work for you. But if you have a lot of surface dirt, if you say are a carpenter in a scene shop, or you do manual labor, whether that is welding or gardening or anything like that, you need a washing machine that thoroughly soaks and surrounds the garment with water. And so you need a top loading washing machine. There are two ways that they tell us about our machines, and one is the Energy Star. The Energy Star means that it is good as far as how much electricity it uses. The Energy Guide gives you an idea of an estimate of how much it costs to run that machine for a year. So for example, this one, for a machine similar to this one, it can cost between $57 and $74 a year to plug that machine in. And so the one that they're advertising right there costs $67. It's going towards the high end of running that machine. You might want one that costs closer to $60 a year to run. That's saying that it's not as expensive to run that, but if it still has an Energy Star, that's a good thing. Now, one thing about top load machines is that they need an agitator. Now, we used to have in the costume shop one that didn't have an agitator in it. And we thought that would be great because we could wash a large amount of fabric all at one time. But what we discovered is that without the agitator, the clothing wasn't getting as clean. We weren't getting surface dirt off. So it's important that you have that agitator in there unless you're only doing delicate. So when you wash in a stream, the water completely soaks the fabric and it goes through the fabric and out the other side. When you wash in a pot over a fire of boiling water, you're completely submerging that garment in hot water. When you use a front loading washing machine, the garments get wet, but there's no surrounding the garment in that water. So you're essentially taking the garment out of the water and then beating it against a rock without ever running fresh water through it. Whereas if you use a top loading machine, you're keeping that garment in the water as it's beaten around. And so there's water moving through the fibers. That's really the difference of how those machines clean. Okay. So before we put our stuff in the washing machine, it is important that we sort our laundry. If nothing else, you need to sort light clothing from dark clothing. I use a simple method of the 3 baskets: light colors, cool colors, and warm colors. Some people go even further. I have a friend who does 7 different loads, but she also has 5 children. My family's not as big, and we tend to wear black because we work in theater, so we don't have as many things to separate out. When you sort your laundry, you want to make sure that you are emptying all the pockets. There's always an accident where a Sharpie goes in the washing machine and then into the dryer. So it's not only all over your clothes, but it's also all over the inside of your machine. Make sure you empty your pockets. Zip your zippers, whether it's a hoodie or a pair of trousers. If you leave them unzipped, that zipper is going to scratch against other garments and has the possibility of tearing them and wearing them down faster. Simply zip all your zippers closed. Tie your drawstrings. We've all lost that drawstring in the top of a pair of sweatpants. Tie it in a bow before you throw it in the washing machine. Button your buttons so that they can't get pulled off. Hook all of the hooks and eyes so that they don't snag on other garments. It's a really good idea to turn your knits and corduroys inside out. And I also turn all of my blue jeans inside out so that when any dye comes off of them, it redeposits back on them instead of out into the laundry. It keeps your jeans and dark clothes from fading too fast if you turn them inside out when you wash them. Now, most garments have a label in them if it's a manufactured garment. And if you're not sure how to care for something, look for the label. A lot of them have words on them, and some of them have the international pictures on them. It'll tell you whether it should be washed in cold water or hot water, if it needs to be hand washed, if you should hang it dry instead of putting it in the dryer, or if you shouldn't use bleach. And there are some fabrics that bleach is bad for. If you're hand washing, there are some great soaps out there. I like to use a gentle soap, something that is sold for perhaps taking care of baby clothes. I also like to use just a clear ivory. Sometimes I will use a Woolite or something like Woolite, but it tends to be a little on the expensive side. So I go for that clear, natural ivory soap that doesn't have any additives to it. It doesn't have any scent in it, and it's nice and gentle on the clothing. It's important if you're working with wool that you don't wring it, that you don't put it in the dryer, that you lay it out flat to dry. If you hang it to dry, wool will stretch. So you want to just lay it out flat to dry. The label we're all afraid of is the dry cleaning label. Now, some things that say dry clean only, it's actually possible to hand wash. They simply say dry clean because they are delicate. And they're afraid that if you throw it in the washing machine, you're going to tear it up, and then you're going to call them and say their clothing isn't very good. So a lot of times that's what that means. Sometimes it's because they're not color fast and the color is going to bleed. A lot of times, because I know fibers and I know clothing, I will do a test and then I will hand wash. The first several times I had a bright blue blouse. The first several times I wore it, I hand washed it. And every time I hand washed it, some color came out. So I was glad I didn't wash it with other things because it would have bled onto those other garments. But about the third or fourth time that I hand washed it, color wasn't coming out of it anymore. And so I started throwing it in with other delicates that could be washed. So think about that. There are definitely clothes that I do not try to care for myself. I send them to the dry cleaners. Those are tailored, particularly tailored wool garments, because getting them wet is going to cause them to lose their shape. And so you want to send those to the dry cleaners, really important. So make sure that you're being aware of that. And if something says to wash it separately, you wash it separately. We now have these things called color catchers that you can throw. You can buy them where you buy your laundry soap, where you buy your dryer sheets, and throw those in, and they'll catch that excess color that's in the water. If you're really concerned, use a gentle or delicate cycle, and that just has less churning in it, so it's less likely to tear up your garments. Picking settings is really something that you need to be aware of. I wash almost everything in cold water, but I use a disinfectant in my laundry also. Okay, so you can see every washing machine has something different. Whites tend to be washed in hot water. Hot water is going to help your whites be white. Colors are going to tend to be washed in cold water because cold water keeps color from coming out of whites, out of your colored clothing. Woolens are going to have less agitation to them. Delicates are going to have less agitation to them. So there are going to be different settings. And so you want a sewing machine where you can tell it the temperature of the water and you can tell it how rough or delicate that it needs to be. Okay, heat causes more wear and tear, and 90% of the energy that a washing machine uses is in using hot water. It's more expensive to wash in hot water. All right, so let's talk about the steps of washing. So it's a really good idea if you can, depending on your washing machine, if you can have some water in your washing machine, not totally full, but some water in your washing machine, and you add the detergent. So the detergent is in all the water and not just some of the water. You don't want to put your clothes in and then put the detergent on top of the clothes, because now the detergent is only touching those clothes that you put it on. It's not touching anything else in there. Okay, so you want the detergent in the water. Then you want to add the clothes to it. Now, the clothes will sink in the water because, and this is a weird thing to say, but detergent makes water wetter. Detergent makes water work better. So if you had 2 buckets and 2 t-shirts, and one bucket had water that had detergent in it, and one bucket was just plain water, and you dropped those t-shirts in, you would find that the t-shirt in the detergent water sinks faster. So the detergent made the water work better. It soaked through the fabric faster and started allowing for that loosening of dirt better. You can always wash in just plain water just by agitating, but it's going to be easier and faster if you have a detergent. Okay. Once it's agitated, you will spin, which takes the place of rinsing, of wringing it out. When you take your laundry out of the washing machine, you want to shake it out. If you take it out of the washing machine in a tight ball and you throw it in the dryer in that tight ball, it's going to take longer to dry, and you're going to dry those wrinkles into the garment. So if you shake it out and then put it in the dryer, it's going to take less time for it to dry, and you'll have less wrinkles to deal with later. So let's talk about picking out a detergent. All right, I'm going to tell you the truth. They all work. It doesn't matter which one you buy, they all work as detergent. Okay, they all work as detergent. So it depends on how many additives you want in your detergent, if you want a scent in your detergent, and there are some that are a little more environmentally conscious. They use naturally occurring elements as opposed to chemically developed elements in them. All of them have what are called surfactants in them. Surfactants are things that help to dissolve surface dirt. So they help to loosen the dirt that's on the surface from the garment and make it go away. Now, I talked about what does the detergent do? It gets the water into the fabric faster. It makes water wetter, but it also makes dirt heavier. So if you've got a top loading washing machine, or you're just washing in a bucket, as it removes that dirt from the garment, it makes that dirt heavy. So the dirt falls to the bottom of the washer or the bucket, and it doesn't reattach to the garment in another place. It doesn't spread that dirt through the water so it reattaches someplace else or to another garment. It makes that dirt heavy and takes it away from the fabric. Liquid detergents actually have sodium citrate in them. And what that does is that helps to soften the water a little bit. Sodium citrate is actually what they put in your cola or soda that helps it stay bubbly. So we tend to think of liquid detergents as having more foam, more bubbles to them because they have that sodium citrate in it. Some of them might say whitening or brightening on them, and they're actually not making your clothes cleaner. What they do is they have an element in them that reflects invisible ultraviolet light, and that is what makes it seem whiter or brighter. You want to watch out for the word enzymes on your detergent because enzymes dissolve protein. Enzymes dissolve protein. So you want to make sure that you're not using that type of detergent on protein-based fabrics. What's a protein-based fabric? When you're looking at a natural fiber, we have plant and we have animal. Animal is protein. So if it's the hair of an animal, so we're talking about wool, okay, and we're talking about silk, those things will break down in an enzyme-based detergent. Cotton won't because it's not protein-based. Synthetics, anything chemical-based, will not break down with an enzyme. So you just really need to think about what chemicals are in there. Are you sensitive to those chemicals? Are there any perfumes in there that will stay on your fabric? Additives. There are all kinds of additives that you can use with your detergent. These are considered booster projects. Products, not projects, products. They help your detergent work better. They all work. You can use some of them before you use detergent. You can use some of them after you use detergent. The liquid bluing is for whites. And the real trick to that, it's just like in makeup class. Blue next to white makes white look whiter, whereas red or pink next to white will make white look duller. That's the whole difference between a blue eyeliner and a red eyeliner. So the same thing, liquid bluing puts just a little hint of blue into your whites and makes them seem whiter. But all of these, the OxiClean, the baking soda, the borax, all of those things help your detergent to work more. There's something added to your detergent that boosts them. Now, as far as stains go, you want to treat your stains as soon as possible. And really, honestly, almost any soap will work. If you run out of Shout and you have detergent, you can take some liquid detergent and rub it in. You can take some powder detergent and mix it with some water so it becomes a liquid, and then you can use that. The important thing is not to rub a stain in. So you don't want to just grab a napkin and start rubbing, because what you're doing is you're actually pushing that stain, probably ketchup or something, deeper into the fabric, and you don't want to do that. So you immediately want to rinse from the back side. So if you can, say you spilled ketchup on your t-shirt, if you can take your t-shirt off and put the wrong side under the faucet, the water will push the ketchup out on the right side, pushing it away from the fibers, and that will help get it out. If you can't do that, then you should blot. Instead of rubbing, just press and try to pick up as much from the surface as you can. If you have something that's oily or greasy, don't rub it at all. Sprinkle a little cornstarch on it and let it absorb the oil or grease, and then you can shake it off, brush it off, and wash it as usual. Interesting to note, Zout is the best thing for getting stage makeup out of clothing. So if you get stage makeup in the theater on your clothing, go for the Zout. I really recommend that. Then also important is to avoid heat. So if you have something that's stained and you pre-treat it and then you wash it and it comes out of the washer still stained, don't put it in the dryer. Treat it again, try something different, try something a little stronger. But as soon as you put it in the dryer, it's going to get heat set. the heat is going to make it even harder to get it out. So be very careful with heat and stains. Bleach. Chlorine bleach whitens and it removes mildew. But it's really important that you not use bleach on silk, on wool, or on spandex, because bleach will break those down. Bleach is great for making whites whiter. Heat helps because we use hot water when we're washing whites. A little bit of bleach makes bleach work faster and stronger. If you need bleach to stop, you have to change the pH, okay? And the way we do that is we use vinegar. Vinegar stops bleach. So if you decide, oh, I want to tie dye this blue shirt, and you tie it all up, whether it's with string or with rubber bands, and you bleach it, and you get this really lovely, you've got dark blues and light blues and white, eventually your shirt is going to start getting holes in it. And the first holes will appear in the white because bleach never stops working until you tell it to stop working. So if you're going to do that and tie dye that navy blue shirt so you get all these beautiful colors of blue and white on it, you need to immediately, once you get the color that you want, soak it in vinegar. And once you soak it in vinegar, the bleach is going to stop working and it won't eventually wear holes into your fabric. Now, if your t-shirt is 10 years old, eventually you're going to get holes in your t-shirt, but it won't be from the bleach. It will be from loving that shirt for so long. So remember, bleach can eat your fabric if you don't stop it. And the way to stop bleach from working is to dip it in vinegar. All right, here are some natural ways of making your own bleach. You can use a combination of hydrogen peroxide and washing soda, of using vinegar and hydrogen peroxide and lemon, depending on how you want it to smell. And a lot of times you can just use hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is naturally brightens your whites. So if you want to, you could use hydrogen peroxide instead of using a cup of bleach. Let's talk about fabric softener. What is the purpose of fabric softener? Fabric softener is like using conditioner when you wash your hair. When you wash your hair and then you put conditioner on it, the conditioner smooths the fibers of your hair. That's what fabric softener does. It smooths the fibers of the fabric. Now you can use a liquid fabric softener, which works in a special dispenser in your washing machine. You can use a fabric softener sheet, what we think of as dryer sheets. That's the same thing. So you don't need to do double duty with liquid and a dryer sheet. You can use one or the other. They will both get rid of static. Or you can use something called a dryer ball. There are natural dryer balls that are made out of wool that has just been washed and dried so it's compacted itself. There's a picture of wool dryer balls there. Or you can actually get some plastic dryer balls. And I've been using plastic dryer balls myself recently, and I really like them. It keeps you from having to use the chemicals that are in dryer sheets or liquid fabric softener. I want to get some wool or maybe make some wool dryer balls and see how they do, but they help to soften your fabric and they reduce static electricity. Static electricity develops when all those little fibers are sticking out on your fabric. You can't even see them. They're so small most of the time. But that is what gives your clothing static electricity and makes it stick together. So the dryer balls help to get rid of that. And I really like to use dryer balls. Okay, drying. All right, it's really important that you remember once you run something in the dryer to remove it fairly quickly, because if you don't, it lays there and it wrinkles and you just ran it through the dryer to get rid of the wrinkles. Well, if you're like me and 2 days later you go, oh no, I left a load in the dryer, there's something you can actually do about that. You can take a couple of washcloths or a couple of small like kitchen towel or hand towel size and get them thoroughly wet and then wring them out. You don't want them to be sopping and dripping. Throw them in the dryer and run the dryer for 10 to 20 minutes. What that's going to do is the water in that towel or washcloth is going to create steam. And as it steams and tumbles against the clothes that have been in the dryer, it will help to get rid of some of those wrinkles that the laundry got by being in there for an extra couple of days. At least it was dry and not sitting in there mildewing, because that will happen if you leave wet clothes in the dryer. So when you take it out of the washing machine, you want to make sure to shake it out. If you put it in a compact ball, you're going to be putting a lot more quarters into the machine to run it more than once. Whereas if you shake it out, you'll be getting rid of some of those wrinkles and you'll be making it go through the dryer for less cycles. So it really helps. Make sure that you don't overload your dryer. If you've got too much stuff in there, the air can't move. It's just like we have to have water moving through the fabric. In the dryer, you have to have air moving through. And you want to make sure, because now there is nothing but a front load dryer. And so your clothes are getting tumbled. They're called tumble dryers. Okay. Your clothes are getting agitated. So you want to make sure that you hang your delicates to dry. You want to make sure that you're not putting anything in there that shouldn't get beaten up as it's getting dry. And you want to make sure not to overload so the air can move through. It's really important that you clean the lint fire. A lot of house fires every year are caused by the lint in the dryer catching fire. So sometimes they're in the front of the drum. In this illustration, it's at the top. That's how mine is at home. But then there also some comes out the back, where the air vents out the back. If you own your own, once in a while, at least twice a year, you should pull your dryer out and check that hose that's going to the outside and see how much lint hasn't gotten caught and is in there, because that's where you're most likely to start a fire. Finally, I want to talk about careful storage. Storing your clothes properly will also help them last longer. Using the proper hanger. All right. So there are wire hangers, there are tube plastic hangers, there are padded hangers, there are shaped wooden hangers, and there are pants and skirt hangers. By not folding pants in half and hanging them over just a wire, you are protecting those fibers from getting broken. You can fold something over a hanger, but you'll notice, like on that wooden shaped hanger, it's a wide dowel. On the tube plastic hangers, it's a wide dowel. It will still damage, but it won't cause the damage that a wire hanger causes. If you've ever hung a sweater up and you get those little pokes in the shoulder where the wire hanger or even a plastic hanger was poking out because it hung all summer, a padded hanger will keep knit fabrics from stretching as much so you don't get that shape. The shaped wooden hanger helps tailored garments such as suit jackets hold their shape when you're not wearing them. And so careful storage is part of the overall care of your clothing. So I hope you saw that how laundry there's an actual art and science to doing laundry, and that it helps your clothing to last longer so that you're not getting rid of clothing or having to repair clothing or having your clothing look bad when you want it to look good, if you take proper care while you're washing, drying, and storing your clothing.